stages.
So the last thing we were talking about was trying to understand the purpose of the Mishkan versus the Mikdash. Well, in general, Mikdash versus Mishkan first, just the general notion of Mishkan and Mikdash, not versus, right? Is it about a makom for Hashem, or is it about avodas hakarbanos? And suggesting that maybe, it's a little bit of both, and maybe at some level that's the difference between Mishkan and Mikdash, right? That Mishkan was only necessary to carry on God, right? Perhaps, right? To explain Rashi, right? That it was only necessary after the Egel, right? Even though it was clear, absolutely clear, that there had to be a Mikdash, because even before the Egel we'd been commanded in Ole Regel, right? To say that maybe there's a difference between Mishkan, which was primarily about God's presence, because, as the Ramban understands it, we needed to perpetuate. But the Ramban thinks we always need to perpetuate Sinai. Maybe according to Rashi, look, we could have managed without it for a few weeks if we'd gone straight into Eretz Israel. But once we sinned, so you needed a place. But the notion that eventually there'd be a place where you'd bring Karbanon, you'd be Ola Regel, you'd do all the Avodot, was always true. And therefore maybe Mikdash is more focused on Avodah, and Mishkan on pure sort of presence of God, whatever that means exactly. Also possibly distinguishing between the Kodesh and the Kodesh HaKadashim. But we noted that it may be that the first distinction we raised will help us understand the weird halacha by Bama, which is that the Mishkan can coexist with Bama. And the Mikdash, not only can it coexist with Bama, but once the Mikdash has been built, it does it forever. But what we left off with was, So what?
Yeah, that's weird.
Wait, what?
Once the second one's built.
No, after the base of Mikdash is built. No, not the second base of Mikdash.
No, we left off with between.
No, right. So we left off was the weird thing is that Novin Gidon. Once the first base of Mikdash was built, you could never have Bamot ever again.
I thought they had Bamos in between the first.
No, in between Mishkan.
Okay.
Right? No. So again, the Mishnah had three different categories. There was Novin Givon, that during those Mishkans you could have Bama even during the time of Novin Givon. Right? The Beis HaMikdash, once you have the Beis HaMikdash, you can never have the Bamot forever, right? That was, I gave you the Rambam summary of it, right? But I also gave you the Mishnayot, right? I had both on this, right? But if you want to look just back at the Rambam summary, it was number 17. It was 17, right? That the Rambam Alcha Gimel came and Shnivna HaMikdash Yerushalayim Nesru Kol Makot Kulan Levnot Behen Bayit LaShem Lakriv Ben Karban Ve'ein Sham Bayit LeDorei HaDorot Elab Yerushalayim Bavad. Right? Pretty clear, right? Once and forever. The problem is the middle case of Shiloh, where Shiloh, right? Again, Novin Givon were coexistent with Bamot. Shiloh, you couldn't have Bamot during the time of Shiloh, but you could have it between Shiloh and Mikdash.
Right.
And this leads us to the question that we left off with was, okay, is the distinction really between Mishkan and Mikdash, right? Or is there really three levels that we need to analyze? I mean, clearly there are three. Clearly, descriptively, there are three levels, right? There's Mishkan of Novin Gidon, there's Shiloh, and there's Beis HaMikdash. But why? Right? What does that mean? Right? Where is this notion that there's a different halos of Shiloh? Right? What does that mean? So if you look at 19, so the Rambam says, Mitzvahs aseh lasos bayit laHashem, muchan liot makrivim bo karbanot, v'chogagin elav shalosh pamim b'shana shenemar v'asuli mikdash, ukvar nitparesh b'Torah Mishkan shasa Moshe Rabbeinu, v'haya lefi sha'ah shenemar ki lo batem ad ata v'gomer. Right. So the first thing to notice is the Rambam says there's a mitzvah to build a mikdash.
Yeah.
Right? And then he flows very quickly into Mishkan. Right? He goes from Mikdash to Mishkan, right? Which would seem to would force us to re-examine what we suggested last time, that there's a sharp divide between Mishkan and Mikdash, right? But let's 19.
Where is it, Mishkan? Oh, Torah Mishkan.
Ukvar niparesh b'Torah Mishkan shasa Moshe Rabbeinu v'haya lefi sha'ah shenemar ki lo vatem arata.
Seems like it's just a question of permanence.
Okay, good, but this would not. Well, though here he seems to equate it, right? But well, that may not be true, and let's examine this. Okay, so Ramban says. והזכיר כאן במקום אשר יבחר השם לשכן שמו שם, וכן אמר 3 פעמים ייראה כל זכורך במקום אשר יבחר. ולא ידעתי. I don't know. אם לומר כי לאחר שיבנה בית המקדש, לא נאסף להקריב קורבנות הרגלים, אלא במקום ההוא אשר יבחר השם. כי טעם שאמר לו לזבוח את הפתח בחד שעריך, או שיבאר כאן שלא יתחייבו לעלות לרגל, עד אשר יבחר השם מקום לשכנו שם. So he says, I don't know. What?
Where was it?
It was the Ramban in 20.
Okay, so.
He said, I'm not sure what this pasuk is coming to teach us. There's 2 things it could teach us. Right? One is that once you have the Beit HaMikdash, you can't go anywhere else. Or that until you have the Beit HaMikdash, you're not chayav to be Ola Regel. L'may nafka mina. Good, but what is the Ramban? Well, we know you can't Ramban on the Beit HaMikdash. That's clear. What's the Ramban really getting at? So what emerges from the Ramban, right? The Ramban's Safek has an interesting question, which is...
how in the world does it mean you can't Bama after another?
What? Okay. No, that we know. That we know, right? That's a given in the Mishnah. Good. So Ramban says, I don't know what it means. Does it mean that...
Oh, you should come to that place.
Right? Is it that until you have the Beit HaMikdash, there's no Chiyuv Ola Regel? Right? Or is it just teaching us that once you have the Beit HaMikdash, you can't, right? Meaning, it definitely teaches that once you have the Beit HaMikdash, you can no longer have Karbanon anywhere else. The second question is, maybe this pasuk teaches a second halacha, which is that until you have the Beit HaMikdash, Ola Regel isn't a thing.
To the Mishkan.
Correct. Okay. Now, if you go back to the halacha before this, in the Rambam seems to hold that, was there Ola Regel in the Mishkan?
Sure.
Yes. Right?
Yeah.
So, here is our... So the first question to test this is, okay, the Rambam says that there is Ola Regel by the Mishkan.
Yeah.
The Ramban isn't sure and suggests that maybe there's only Ola Regel to the Mikdash. Now, what position would generate the possibility that Shiloh is different if...
You held the Ramban and had Ola Regel.
Correct. Well, no. If you said there was no Lila Real to Novin Gifon, but there was to Shiloh, right? That would suggest that the Bumot thing, right? You could just say it's Exeris caused by Bama. But if we want to say that maybe this distinction between Nov Givon, Shiloh, Mikdash indicates there are actually 3 levels, and that Shiloh is actually somewhere in between, we would expect there to be more than one halacha, right? That the only nafkamina would not be the one we were talking about, namely Bama. Right? So, we have the Rambam who clearly holds that at least for certain Mishkans there was a Lila Regel. That's what he says.
Yeah.
Right? The Ramban suggests that maybe there's no Lila Regel until the Mikdash. Right? Might Shiloh be different than Novin Givon? Where would we look to figure this out? Why in Shmuel?
Shiloh was the Mishkan.
Because, and there we have a story of what?
Them going to Mishkan with the...
Yeah, we have the story of Elkanah being Ola Regel. Yeah. But what's unclear in the story of Shmuel...
Whether they went just to do Karbanos, whether they went for Lila Regel.
Correct. Right? So, if you look at 21, the pasuk says, V'Allah yishahu me'iro mi'amim yamim l'shtachavot l'zboach l'Adonai Tzvaot b'Shiloh v'sham b'nei Eli chavniu v'nchas kohanim l'Adonai. So Eli used to make a pilgrimage to Shiloh. And the Mefarshim divide. No. Is this...
The Zavach l'Hashem. No? Isn't that Gif Karbanos?
Yeah.
That's true, but some Karbanos are chai because of all the Regel.
Right, now.
Yes.
Is this...
Correct.
But now the question is, okay, is this just he made a personal pilgrimage to bring Karbanot? Yes. Or is this, no, he used to be Ola Regel, and when he was Ola Regel, he brought Karbanot, which we're supposed to do. So the Mefarshim divide, the Radak says, Ve'Allah.
It's about Elkanah, right?
Yeah, there's Elkanah. So the Radak says, Ve'Allah. Kena Yosef v'chol shana v'shana, she'oleh l'Shilo, Nizbach. He said he would go and he would be Makariv people to bring them also. With Drash, Lo b'derech she'ola b'shana zo, ha'ola b'shana acheret. Chol shana, ha'ola b'derech acheret b'shil ha'shmei Yisrael ha'lo tel l'shila. And the drash is that he would go in different ways every year just to inspire more people. What does the Radak clearly hold? Is this Ola Regel?
Yeah.
No, this is not Ola Regel. He would bring Karbanot and he'd try to inspire different people.
I thought it was inspiring people to do Ola Regel.
No, to bring Karbanot. Mizares bino, he would just bring people. It's not... Right? And he says, what is Yamim Yamima? Yamim Yamima means yearly. Not at the other... What?
It doesn't apply either way. Well, that's true, it is yearly, not...
It's yearly, it's once a year. Every year he would go, not Yamima, meaning on a consistent basis, yearly at different times. Once a year, he had this spiritual thing that he would try to get people to go to the Mishkan. But it's clear in the Radak. We're not talking about Ola Regel. There's no Ola Regel. Right? Now, the Al Sheikh in 23 says, Amnam, ein safek, yibram yamim yaminu, mishana l'shana. Kasher yachriya omro achareken, chiyazeh b'shana, midei olata. V'lo levatzer miyot tzarech latam, el bilti olato shalosh b'shana. Right? He says it's clear that he's only going once a year.
Yeah.
And he says, and it needs to provide an explanation to why he is
only going once, not 3 times.
Right, why he's not doing Aliyah L'Regel. But the Radak and the Al-Shach both seem to assume that he's not. Right, the Radak. On the other hand, the Eliyahu Rabbah says, "Hey, Elkanah ole arba ben b'shana, shlosha min haTorah, v'achad shekibel alav."
Okay.
Right, the Eliyahu Rabbah says, "No. He went a 4th time. That's what was the chiddush. But clearly, he was being Ole Regel."
Why you just interpret Yemima to mean like 3 times a year? Like
you could, right? The Radak doesn't.
Yeah.
Right, and the
Eliyahu Rabbah seems to.
It clearly does. Right.
Why does it say it's a 4th time? Just say.
Well, because it sounds like it's something Elkanah did differently.
Yeah.
Right? Especially since the subsequent stories that Chana would refuse to come afterwards. Right? Would she refuse to come to the regular? She would refuse to... Right? Whatever.
Yeah.
But in the Agadat Breshit, Shneamar, V'Allah, Isha, Humi, Yerom, Yamim, Yamima, V'Pesach, LaPesach, Shneamar, V'Shemar, D'Chukah, Azot, L'Moadah, Yamim, Yamima. So the Agadat Breshit seems to have a middle shita, which is, he wasn't Ole Regel, except for Pesach, but not because of the Chiyuv of Ola Regel, but because of the Chiyuv of Korban Pesach. Right? So there didn't seem to be the full-blown Chiyuv of Ola Regel.
I think this would be the difference between Shiloh and Ov and you don't.
Now, so now you would say...
Good.
So now you'd say, well, okay, how do you know? Right, so now you have 2 shitot here. Either there was Ola Regel or there wasn't Ola Regel. So now you'd say, okay, shouldn't this be machriya on the suffix of the Ramban? Right? Meaning, and say we paskin like the Rambam. Right?
Well, it's the Ramban can just be in Safek whether this happened here also.
Correct. So it could be the Ramban just denies it. But there's the possibility, and this is what you get in the Sifrei, in number 6, and this is in the context of Bikurim, where he says something very weird. And he says, V'samta vatene, milamed shetun in kli. V'lachtam lakom asher chashem elokecha bo, ze Shiloh ubeit olamim. In the context of Bikurim, we find the Shita that they did have Bikurim, but only in the Mikdash and Shiloh. Right? Not in Noven Givon, but only in Shiloh. Right? What? The Sifrei, Chazal, Tanaim. Right? And then in 27, you get the same thing by Meiser Sheni. Meiser Sheni is V'alachta makom asher Hashem elokecha bo, zo Shiloh ubeit olamim. Right? And again, if you read this as Meduyak, right? Meaning not just reading it as Mishkan and...
Yeah, maybe Shiloh is just like paradigmatic Mishkan.
Correct. So it could just be paradigmatic Mishkan. What's the problem with that? Is that we know there's at least one nafkamina, which is clearly different between Nov and Givon, which is the one we started with, which is Bamot.
Yeah.
Right? That by Shiloh there's an Isser Bamot, Nov and Givon there isn't. Right? So now, what we have is, we have an explicit halacha that there's a difference in terms of Bamot between Nov and Givon and Shiloh.
Yeah.
And once you know that distinction exists, you have to wonder whether the Sifrei is being precise when it says about Bikurim and about Meiser Sheni. And then you have this suffix about, Alila Regel by Shiloh, and now you have to wonder, maybe there was Alila Regel, as we saw, like according to Eliyahu Rabbah, in Shiloh. But would that prove anything about Nov and Givon? Right. Maybe not. Right? Maybe. So you just turn for a moment to to the last source that I gave you. This is a chart, right? To know this, yeah.
Shiloh was before Novin Givon?
After.
After, okay.
Right? I mean, there's a progression, right?
Yeah, that makes more sense.
So if you look, right, just to summarize this summary, right, what do you get? You get, look, right, the evidence that we have so far for sure, look at the second line, is Isher Bamot, right? Yerushalayim, La'olam. Right? Once you have the base of Mikdash, Isher Bamot forever. Shiloh, only when it's built, and Novin Givon, Hutra Bamot. Right? It is mutter. That's a fact. Okay? Skip down. Bikurim, in Yerushalayim, Miviim. Right? Right? Miviim. Right? That we know, based on Mikdash. Shiloh, explicit in the Sifrei that you do bring. Right? Novin Givon, implied in the Sifrei that you don't bring. Right? Though the Ramban is a suffix about this. I think I put this Ramban. Yeah, in 29. The Ramban is a suffix about this. Uv'sifrei, v'lachtom alakom ashiv char Hashem elokecha l'shakein shemo sham, ze Shiloh beit olamim. Right? He quotes the Sifrei, and he writes, V'shem ha'yomru ki v'mod asurot b'shnei hazmanim ha'elu, aval gam no givon yakriv aki bikurim. Aval bomen yachid ein akrev l'mizbeach tiv, v'ulai ma shekatuv reishit bikurim matchat avi beit Hashem elokecha, lo karvu ba'ol of Mishkan, ela b'Shiloh she'esham beit avanim beit olamim. Ramban said it's a suffix. He's not sure whether when the Sifrei says Shiloh Beit Olamim, that just because it's in the middle of a series of halachot that includes bamot, so it's just like lav dafkad it, right. Or does it mean no? This is another difference between Novin Givon, and now the Ramban tells you, and why might there be a difference? Right? This is the first time we get a hint. Why might there be a difference between Shiloh and Novin Givon? Why would it be? Right? If you want to follow all these distinctions, why might this be true? So what did the Ramban say? Shiloh is a bayit. Right? Shiloh is a beit avanim. Okay. Right? The difference is that Shiloh, even physically, is somewhere between a Mishkan and a Mikdash. Namely, it is a Beit Avanim, just not a permanent one.
But it is that the case.
Right. Right, and this you get. Now, the Ramban is not totally sure about this, but Rashi is clear. Rashi in 30 makes this fully clear that Yesheva Haaron Berish B'Lashim Bo Lehen Lenov V'lo Haya Sham Mishkan Ela Bayit Shel Avanim Haya. Right? He's very clear. Novin Givon are tense. Shiloh is the first time you get a Beit Avanim. Right? And that's what you get on the back of the chart, right? Surat Abayit. What does it look like? So Yerushalayim is Avanim im Tikra. Shiloh is Avanim b'li Tikra.
What's Tikra?
A roof. It's not a roof, but it is a stone building.
Right.
And then Novin Givon, so according to the Ramban, is just in Ohel. According to Rashi, maybe, right? Also rocks.
Right.
Sorry, no. He said no. It does have rocks. Right. Sorry, no. He's explicit. It has rocks. Right. Now the last one on this chart, Aliyah L'Regel, Yerushalayim, Olim, Novin Givon. We don't know, right? But we know that there must be a Mishkan to which you're Ola Regel, right? Because the Rambam says that, right? Though according to Radak, it sounds like even in Shiloh there's none, right? So what? Now you possibly get another mitzvah, right? The first thing that here is the question of mitzvah live note at all, right? Where Yerushalayim, obviously there's a mitzvah to build the Beit HaMikdash. The Mishkan, it's not clear. Right? It's not clear. This is a machlokas rishonim. Now, what does this all amount to? Right? So, if you take this all together, what does it all amount to? So, like I said, right, the point of this is to indicate that last week we discussed the possibility that last time we discussed the possibility there's a difference in terms of purpose between the Mishkan and the Mikdash.
Yeah.
But now, it may be that it's slightly more complicated than that. Right? Is that maybe, sure, Mishkan is at one end, that Mikdash is at one end of the spectrum, and the Mishkan in the Midbar is the other end of the spectrum, but it could be that this didn't happen overnight, that Shiloh was a middle ground. That Shiloh was... Now what would the logic be for this? Right? What would the logic be here? Right now you want to just try to explain it misvara, right? Okay, we proved that maybe there is a nafkamina, right? That there are all these nafkaminas, but why would that be true?
Right.
Right? Actually, let's read the last source that I put on the sheet, and then let's try to take a step back. Right? The Ritva in 31 says, "V'utavas mizbeach Shiloh." Kach hagirsa b'chol svarim. The kasha. David lo haya mishkan b'Shiloh. K'narin ba'alma oto yom shemeid eli nitkayim b'itosh mishkan Shiloh. The kach koreis Rashi zal v'utavas mizbeach. Bama. Klomar mizbeach bama shasa David. Bama lefnei Aaron ba'ol asher tabir David k'chsav hayanas Yoav elol Hashem. So, commenting on the Gemara in Makot, which has this, imagines Yoav grabbing onto the Mishkan, to the Mizbeach, he notes that there's a Machloket Girsa, whether this is Mishkan Shiloh or just a Mizbeach. Right? Mizbeach of the Mishkan of Shiloh or just Mizbeach. The Afek Kivein Zal. The Yesh Korsim Mizbeach Giv'on. Kisham Haya Mishkan B'mei David U'Shlomo Achin Ivneh Beit Olamim. In some Girsot it says the Mizbeach of Givon. The Yesh L'Kayim Girsat Kol HaSvarim Yishanim V'Shiloh Blav Davka El Mishum D'Shiloh Ikar Mishkan Yoter Mikulam Chutz MiBeit Olamim. And then he says, well, I think you should keep the Girsa of Shiloh, but not because Shiloh is... He thinks this halacha of being saved by the Mizbeach, right, of it acting as an miklat, is true, even of the other Mizbachot. But he says that the Girsa is still true, right, because Mishkan is the Shiloh is the paradigm. Okay. That is the quintessential Mishkan. Why? More than the others. Chutz mi Beit Olamim, except for the Beit Mikdash. V'kula nitpalin bo k'techtiv hayitosh Mishkan Shiloh. L'chein tafas kan Mizbeach Shiloh ki givon tachat Shiloh kam.
Right.
So what does the Ritva say? Even though in this particular halacha he doesn't distinguish between Nov and Givon, right? It's the irony, right? In the middle of a discussion of why there is no difference for the purpose of a miklat between Givon, right, Nov and Givon and Shiloh, he tells you, but why would it be that when we're talking about the Mishkan we talk about Shiloh? Because Shiloh is more of a Mishkan than any other Mishkan. Right? I mean, he tells you that in no uncertain terms. Right? It's more Mishkan or more Mikdash-like, I should be more precise. It's the Mishkan which is more Mikdash-like than any other Mishkan except for the Mikdash itself. Right?
Yeah.
What all this comes down to is that clearly there is an intuition, at least possibly, among several Rishonim, and seeming clearly in the Gemara, and the Mishnah and the Gemara for Bamot, and the Sifrei possibly for Bikurim and Meiser Sheni, right? That drawing this sharp distinction between Mishkan at one end of the spectrum and Mikdash at the other is not right. Yes. Right? That really there's something in between. Now, why would that be true? So, descriptively, the answer is because Shiloh...
It's more permanent.
Right? Yes. Right? That Shiloh is a Beit Havanim. Right. And more permanent. And therefore, it is, in fact, more Mikdash-like. Right? Simply descriptively. Right? It is more Mikdash-like. Now, why does that make a difference halachically? Right?
Because if it's really just purely a Mishkan, then a Mishkan is just a bigger Bama. It's just the biggest Bama.
Right. I mean, I think that's right. Sort of the theory that seems to be emerging. Right. Is that the reason Mikdash is the way it is because it's permanent. Right. Mikdash is the final kiyum of Makom Asher Yivchar Hashem. Right. Once it is the Makom Asher Yivchar Hashem, Bamot become Asur forever. Yeah. Ole Regel is undeniably chayav because this is the Makom Asher Yivchar Hashem. Right? Obviously, Mikdash has all halachot of Mikdash because it is the end game. Right? It is the $3 billion movie, right? Okay? Right? Is it $3 billion yet? I don't know.
2.7, I think.
The $2.7 billion, right? It will beat...
I didn't know that.
What?
Oh, it was last week. I don't know if it got up.
It will beat... It is the end game that will beat Avatar for LV, okay? Right? It is... Right?
Yes.
Right? Everything you can think about Mishkan and Makom Asher Yivchar Hashem and all the things that it's supposed to be, Mikdash obviously is. That's why it has a Regel. That's why it has an Isser Bama. Because once you're there, nothing else can happen. Right? Mishkan is just a place, right? It's just a place, right? Where God's presence is, and therefore you can bring Karbanot, but it's not even primarily about Karbanot. It's just a good place to bring Karbanot because God's presence is there, whatever that means. Hence,
you can bring Balas.
Right, that even while the Mishkan is standing, you can bring it other places because we haven't yet chosen a makom of, service to God. It's just, we've picked a place that represents God's presence in this world. But, it's not contradictory to the existence of Mishkan to say that you have other places we can karbanot, because it's not primarily about karbanot. The Mikdash is, right? This is the place I've chosen for you to bring karbanot. Therefore, don't bring other places. Mishkan is just a place where you can bring karbanot because God is there, whatever that means, right? That's Noven Givon, and therefore, even while they're standing, there's a heter bamot, right? That physically you see this because, according to the Ramban, it's just a Noel. Maybe it has Avanim, according to Rashi, right? But it's not obvious that it has Avanim because it's really temporary, and it's the movable Sinai, as it were, right? Just where God's presence is, right? Therefore, it may not have Ola Regel because, well, why would it have Ola Regel? It's a place where God's presence is, but it's not like God has not yet centralized there. You might not, right? According to the simple read of the Sifrei, you can't bring Bikurim. Why can't you bring Bikurim?
Bikurim are a gift to God.
Yeah, and what do you say when you read Bikurim?
This is the place you chose.
Yeah, you brought me to this place, but there is no place. It's unimportant. It's temporary. It's an ohel, right? By definition, it is temporary. You can't, any halacha which is related to not just there being a physical structure, but it being the makom ha'ex, right? Makom. It isn't the makom. Right? It's a tent. It's temporary. It happens to be. Right? It happens to be, but it's not a makom. Right? Evidenced by the fact that it's in an oil. It can move. Right? Think about it. If I said, can you be Ola Regel in the Midbar, that would be really bizarre. Because the Mishkan just moved. Like, there is no makom. You can't say the words Bikurim. Hey, Veiti at makom hazeh. No, you didn't bring me to anywhere, right? I just happened to be showing up where the Mishkan is today, and Noven Givon are that just for hundreds of years at a time, right?
Right.
Meiser Sheni is very place-oriented, right? How do we know it's place-oriented? Yeah, in its epitomized form, you only eat it in Yerushalayim where there's a wall, there's an obsession not just about the physical structure, but about that the makom has now become the makom hanivchar, right? But Shiloh, right, is in the middle, and that's why there are machlokot about it. Right? Because on the one hand, yes, it's a Mishkan, so it's not really the Makom Asher Hashem in the ultimate sense, meaning the Mikdash is going to move from here. Right? But when you build a structure, right, out of Avanim, even if this isn't the final structure, right, is there clearly, right, a place in the sense that now you shouldn't be bringing Bamot elsewhere? The halacha is yes. Meaning, when it is destroyed, it doesn't carry with it the prominence of the Mikdash, right? But while it's standing, right, the fact that the halacha is you have to, that you brought it in, you built it with stone, means that unlike a tent, right, which is by definition transient, right, the place is accidental, right? Once you build, the place isn't accidental anymore, right? It's not like Noven Givon, like, oh, the place doesn't work, let's move the Mishkan, right? Shiloh is, if it doesn't work, what do you have to do to it? Destroy it, right? Think about it, right? These two of you were there when we did this on Thursday night, right? That what is Yirmiyahu's claim? Right? Yirmiyahu doesn't say, oh, the Mikdash can be destroyed because Noven Givon were destroyed. What does he say? Come to Shiloh and look that it's a desolate place. Meaning, at some level, the fact that Shiloh was built in a place, Yirmiyahu is telling you that it shares characteristics with the Mishkan. It isn't the final Makom Asher B'char Hashem, but it was a Makom Asher B'char Hashem, and therefore the fact that it is destroyed is indicative of the fact that even places which are Asher B'char Hashem can be destroyed. He doesn't bring up Noven Givon because Noven Givon, that's not a raya, right? It's not a makom, right? It's a tent.
That's been destroyed from the whole Midbar.
Right, that doesn't make any sense. But Shiloh, that's a coherent statement because it is a temporary makom Asher B'char Hashem, and therefore it's in the middle. It's not the makom Asher B'char Hashem forever, and therefore once it's destroyed, bamot or mutter again. But while it stands, it can't coexist with Bamot because for the moment, God has chosen a place. All right, and therefore the Sifrei can potentially say, well, yeah, you can bring Bikurim to Shiloh because it is actually a coherent sentence to say, Hey, Veiti at makom hazeh. The makom is something. Right? It's not just, it happened to me a Mishkan, which is standing in this place. No, it is a quasi-mikdash. I have temporarily chosen this place to be a makom avodah, and therefore I can articulate that. Meiser Sheni can be brought there because, right, it is coherent to talk about Shiloh and say, you are limited to eat within the confines of the Shiloh area. Because Shiloh, at least temporarily, is a makom, right? You can argue potentially, again, there's no evidence of this because no one says anything in Oven Givon, but you can argue, at least potentially, that Ole Regel would apply to Shiloh, right? Because there's a makom, come to the makom of Hashem. Right? It's at least plausible. By Noven Givon, it's much harder. We don't have evidence of it. And therefore, what I think the Shiloh thing indicates is that to the extent that Mishkan is just the place where God is, right? Whatever that means. But it's not the Makom Avodah. It's the Makom Asher Yivchar Hashem. Right? And Mikdash at the opposite extreme is the Makom Asher Yivchar Hashem, and therefore the place of Avodah. Right? And the nafkamina being bamot, right? The fact that Shiloh is in the middle, I think, can be constructed, as you see from the Shitot, as possibly being, right, not just a prat in the halacha of bamot, but actually indicative of the fact that Shiloh fundamentally occupied a middle space. Then on the one hand, it wasn't the permanent makom asher yivchar Hashem, but because it was a beit avanim, it was built. Right?
Long last.
It was at least it was while it stood, the makom was sanctified along with it. It took on the status of a temporary mikdash rather than, right, a mere mishkan or something like that. That's why it's the paradigm, right? Because it's what mishkan would look like, right? Mishkan, its epitome, is a quasi mikdash, right? Like the Ritva says, right? Noven Givon are like pale reflections of that because they're just, right? There's no mikdash element to them. And again, that's why, while it stands, it's Bamot. Yes, when it's destroyed, there'll be a heter. But while it stands, there is a makom which Hashem has chosen. Right? That's why it has rocks. Right? It is built. Again, that's why it's plausible to bring Bikurim there and say the makom Asher, right, that God chose. It's plausible to say Ma'aser Sheni, which is clearly makom-oriented halacha, will apply there. Right? And that's what I think is just important to realize about Shiloh, is that, right, the distinction is not as stark as Mishkan versus Mikdash. It's really Mishkan, Midbar, Nov, and Givon at one extreme, Mikdash at the other extreme, and then Shiloh, which has certain elements of Mishkan, but because it was built b'avanim and therefore stood in a place not just by accident for hundreds of years, but because it was rooted physically, and therefore that has implications, right? You find that it shares many Mikdash halachot, and in fact inhabits, in a halachic sense, a middle status, right? Again, in each machlokas you have to argue, because you'll see that some of the things, right, there'll be machlokas about it, but the fact that it seems to, the fact that it undeniably occupies a middle status, I think makes sense, right? How many of the halachot will actually be explained by that, right, is, as we've seen, a machlokas. But the fact that, right, it's not Mishkan to Mikdash, it's Mishkan to Mikdash Ma'at, to borrow a phrase, to Mikdash, right, that I think is undeniable when you follow the sort of the halachic trajectory of Shiloh. Okay?